So today is gonna be a fun video, a really fun video that I'm excited to do. Um, please stick along or stick around because I'm gonna be doing some digital work, and this might help you in whatever program you're working in, whether it be GIMP, um, Illustrator, Photoshop, Procreate, Affinity, any of these programs. And I'll be talking a lot about color. I'll be talking a lot about I'll be talking about a lot of stuff. A lot about. That's a new one. That's never happened before. So I am today hanging out and drawing Jimi Hendrix. And he is the man, the myth, the legend. He was not only a contemporary but a genius at that. If you don't know who Jimi Hendrix is, I'm like pretty sure that you guys that are like young in this class are still old enough to know who Jimi Hendrix is. Anyway, Photoshop. Oh my gosh. So, I started this drawing like 3 years ago, and it kind of has changed a little bit over time. I've approached it a few different times, and sometimes that's necessary. You have to really feel out what you're drawing. You have to take your time, look at it a lot. I sit here just like this all day sometimes, just looking at my work. And even behind me, I have work just sitting around, and it's meant to be something I look at and just study. So let's dive in. This isn't gonna be like a YouTube video. I'm not there yet, but here we go. So I'm working on an XP Pen Artist Pro. It's kind of like a Wacom tablet. It's great. And up until yesterday, this is what my drawing looked like. Minus the yellow right there, because that's not supposed to be there. But I'm also using something very interesting. It's called a Razor Orb Weaver. All of these keys are programmed to undo, redo, brush, eraser, etc. Whichever ones I need, really. So I'm gonna zoom in, get rid of this junk. A thing that you should really pay attention to in digital art is your layering, because that was a mistake right there. And you want to have your line work looking relatively nice, and see how I'm trying to get this line, and I've undoed multiple times. That's the digital art 101. It's gonna happen. You're gonna do it all the time. So not only am I pressing undo a lot, I'm also making short strokes. I'm using my arm for the most part, and I'm sorry for those of you that wish this was scripted. Um, this is a very spontaneous video that I'm sitting here. Why not just record? And I finally got my recording set up, all ready to go. So I've been streaming on Twitch, and that has been a great experience so far. The community there is amazing. And that's what art is really about at the end of the day. It's all about community. And if you're pursuing art as a career, the one thing I can say is be a good person and the rest will come to you. Of course, you have to have attractive work, but attractive doesn't mean good, you know. What is good art, you know? We talked about that. Anyway, I am currently trying to answer that question myself because of all of this mumbo jumbo in the crypto art world. If you haven't been hearing about NFTs, that's where art is pretty much at right now. It's very much a future thing. Excuse me. So, as I was saying about this drawing, I pretty much started coloring this from dark to light. So, the way that I go about this is pretty much starting with the gist of the colors. So, as you can see on the right hand side, over here, that's where all my highlights, shadows, and individual elements stay, just so I can keep those, locked in and crispy, because on the colors layer, that's pretty much where I put all of the local color. Local color is pretty much your base color. What color are you using without any sort of highlights or shadows? That's your local color. And then I have these like layer elements. I have my flower elements, and then the face details. And the way that I did the face, which might help you in your drawings for your self-portrait, do you see how I have pretty decent shapes going on here? I have my shadow shapes, all shapes, if that makes sense. It sounds kind of redundant, but like the nose here, that's its own shape. I didn't need that line because the highlights are, so bright that it's getting rid of that line. It's pretty much shine a bright light at anything and see how well you can see it, Anyway, that might not be the best advice, but yeah, so right now I'm just trying to get rid of these fuzzy edges, and these fuzzy edges are a result of, I think, scaling up and down the image over and over again. So it stays pretty crisp now, or it gets crisp once I go over the line because I'm all zoomed in, everything's good to go, and the pixels per inch, which is something you'll set up in a new file, which is very important. So while I'm saying pixels per inch, when you're setting up a file, you always want it to be 300 or 400 ppi, pixels per inch. And that's because when you're printing, you have to have 300 pixels per inch or else it's going to be blurry. That's hands down a rule. And also CMYK is necessary for print. RGB is for web. Always. No exceptions. So if you pull up a CMYK image on a screen, which is mainly RGB, it's gonna look really weird. Honestly, I can show you right now on this stream. So I have this image slideshow, and just wait for this one. See how that's a CMYK drawing in RGB. Those colors will only show up on a screen. And see, this one I did correct. This is in CMYK, but all of the colors are within the realm of, print. So here we are looking at this face. I have a lot of little shapes and little marks here. My darkest darks are in black. And then I have probably about a 75% value right here in this brown. And I can go, I am gonna go and do another face layer. And, I can organize my layers a lot better than this, but right now I'm just kind of winging it. So let's go on to the darks of the face. And when you're working in digital or traditional, when you are mixing colors, when you want to lighten and darken a color, you either add white or black normally, but that will make it really dull. There are ways to mix darker and brighter colors without that. Anyway, so I'm gonna go probably at 80% dark here and just try and merge these two values closer and closer to each other. And when I squint my eyes at it, those values are still pretty close to being the same. So I'm gonna go a little bit darker. And usually around the mouth and around the nose, those are gonna be your darkest values, and around the eyes. And the smaller the details are smaller details are usually found in smaller areas of the face. So like in these crevices around the eye. And the shape of all of these tones are really important because that's what people are seeing at the end of the day. The easier these shapes, at least in my style, I think the better these shapes look, the more interesting it looks. And I've studied the face a lot, and the brightest spots are usually like your cheekbones, the corners of your eye, the muscles right here, tip of the nose, and then I don't know, it depends on the light source. And then the corners of the mouth, so right here, are usually the darkest, and then the crease of your lips, corner of your eyes, around the eyelids. And when I zoom out, it all condenses. So it's still really dark, but it gets darker when I zoom out because the closer elements get even closer together once I'm zooming out. And I kind of want to vary these flowers a little bit, make these flowers pop out a little bit more. So one way is to add a thicker line on part of it, or depends on the style. I tend to add a drop shadow type of line. And same thing on these ones. So yeah, I can go in and touch things up here and there, and that's why you want separate layers, because if everything's on the same layer, you're just mixing it and mushing it together, and you want to separate things. I don't know what this music is, guys. I'm just letting it play from Spotify. But yeah, I wanted to tune in and give you some tips and just talk to you while I'm working. And I'm really enjoying this piece, and I think it's both a good example of using line and working on a face. So here we are. And I'm gonna keep these lines in the background thin because I don't want them popping out too much, because I don't want it to distract people from what the subject is, and that's the face. And I'm pretty close to the face, so even this flower was a big move, but I don't want that line there because that'll look weird. And I had just a straight line there. I think I'm gonna extend this shape just a wee bit. And I kind of want more of this contrast in the background. Excuse me. So I am still just refining these lines, and that's just because it's easier for me to do that while I'm talking. And this flower is really pixelated if I zoom in on it, and that's because I copied it and I pasted it and I blew it up, so the resolution didn't get adjusted. And typically when you're working in Photoshop, increasing and decreasing the size of anything is going to result in this. But if you're in Illustrator, these pixels disappear because Illustrator is a raster program. It creates rasterized images, which basically means you can blow it up and down, scale up and down as much as you want. Sorry, this is kind of a pain in the butt. But, yeah, I'm undoing a lot and redoing and zooming in and zooming out and looking at it from across the room, and yeah, just giving it a lot of attention. And the colors are kind of bright because Jimi Hendrix was around in the 70s and the 60s, and you know what that means. People were out here popping acid and doing dumb things and going to music or concerts in Woodstock and causing trouble and just feeling the vibes, man. But no, Jimmy, I love him. He's one of my favorite of that time just because of his swagger. His music is really good. His music is really good, and he always just dressed so dapper, and his death was tragic. So eventually I'm gonna go in and color this some more, but for now I'm just going to let you look at it and think about what I said. And when I'm mixing skin tones, it's not just one color plus white. It's usually like one color with a little bit of like a low opacity color, like red. Like if you look right here, I have like a burnt sienna, burnt umber, like a red, a pale red, and those are usually the skin tones that you want. And to mix black, you would use like ultramarine blue and burnt umber, and burnt umber is brown, so ultramarine blue and brown mixed together makes black. And that's important for digital work because you want to think about minimizing the gray in your design if you're like mixing colors. And same thing with oil and acrylic and watercolor, but it's a lot of mixing, and mixing is not easy. I'm still not good at it. I'm still terrible at mixing. But yeah, the more I work with it, the more I start to understand it. And I have a lot of gradients in here, and I use the selection tool here in the middle to create this swirl gradient. And the more I work on this, the more I'll make these shapes look better and the lines look smoother and whatever else bothers me. So going into this last week, I want you to really think about these small decisions within your drawing and all of the small problems that pop up within your drawing. There's always a way to solve it, no matter what. And when you're starting out drawing, you need to be soft, you need to be sketchy, you need to mess up, start over, and learn from your mistakes. Just like life, you gotta learn from your mistakes, or else you're just gonna keep doing the same thing over and over again, and then you end up mad. So take all of this into heart, or don't. But I just wanted to share with you this process and talk a little bit about digital work and pretty much the process of working through this with you guys. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this, because I did. I really enjoyed talking to you guys, and it's a lot easier now that I have my camera set up and my computer set up and my tablet set up, and I figured out all these streaming softwares, and it's much easier for me to just do this as opposed to doing a big blue button and figuring it out, So I hope you enjoyed this video, and please like and subscribe, you know, the usual. So, I've never said that before and it sucks. Anyway, just if you enjoyed the video, you know, shout it out, comment on it, like it. Everybody knows there's an algorithm these days. But I just started streaming on Twitch, and I just launched a Patreon. I'm on all the socials. Sneedart is what I go by. Yeah, this is me. This is what I do. And I'm glad I could make this video, because I know those of you that were in my last class missed out on this kind of content. So, and that was just a result of the time. So, thank you guys for listening, guys and gals. Have a good one. Thank you.